Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna to all the devotees. Dandas pranams, welcoming you all to Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. So for today's session, we have His Grace Radharamana Prabhu with us. So Prabhu, thank you so much for joining. So, and inviting you, thanking you for joining, giving your association to us on behalf of all of us. So Prabhu, over to you. I request you to go ahead and then share the nectar for today. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Can you hear me, right?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye. Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nandagopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Lagete Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Paramananda Madhavam. Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Shri Gurum Dinatharinam. Hare Krishna. We are reading from the 5th canto, 14th chapter, text 6. I'll share that. Okay. So the meters here are a little different. Not the regular one. So Tatra Chak Kvachid Atapodaka Nibhan Vishayan Upadhavati Panabhojana Vyavayadi vyasanalolupaha. Tatra cha kvachid atapodaka nibhan vishayan upadhavati pana bhojana vyavayadi vyasanalolupaha. Tatra cha kvachid atapodaka nibhan vishayan upadhavati pana bhojana vyavayadi vyasanalolupaha. Word for word. Tatra, there in this phantom place. Cha, also. Kvachit. Kvachit sometimes. Atapa udaka nibhan. Like the water in the mirage. Like the water in a mirage in the desert. Vishayan, the objects of sense enjoyment. Upadhavati, runs after. Pana, to drink, drinking. Bhojana, to eating. Vyavaya, to sex life. Adi, and so on. Vyasana, with addiction. Lolupaha, a debauchee. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhu. Translation. Sometimes in this house, in the sky, Gandharvapura, the conditioned soul drinks, eats, and has sex. Being overly attached, he chases after the objects of the senses, just as a deer chases a mirage in the desert. Purport. There are two worlds, the spiritual and the material. The material world is false like a mirage in the desert. In the desert, animals think they see water, but actually there is none. Similarly, those who are animalistic try to find peace within the desert of material life. It is repeatedly said in different shastras that there is no pleasure in this material world. Furthermore, even if we agree to live without pleasure, we are not allowed to do so. The Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says that the material world is not only full of miseries, dukkhalayam, but also temporary, ashashvatam. Even if we want to live here amid miseries, material nature will not allow us to do so. It will oblige us to change bodies and enter atmosphere full of miserable conditions. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindubhye Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So in this verse, it's talking about mainly how sense gratification does not provide any permanent result for us in a way. The more we get attached to sense gratification, the more the cycle of sense gratification only increases. So in Gandharvapura, as you know, the world is compared to, the world is like a giant wheel. There's the upper planetary system, middle planetary system, lower planetary system. And we are going in this Brahmanda Brahmite. We are going in this up and down circle of according to our karma. So there is the Brahmaloka to Patala Loka. And in various lokas, you get different kinds of sense gratification, enjoyment, according to the Purva Punya karmas that we have, we go up or down. That was the system, that previously people wanted to enjoy in a Swarga Loka or this Loka or that Loka, the Karmis. That's where they were called Karmis. They would do different kinds of yagnas, Jyotishtoma Yajna and all this, and then they would go enter Svargaloka. Just like the same concept is there today, but it's not going to Svargaloka. It is going to United States or England, Europe, Australia, all these things to earn more, have a more sense gratification than compared to India. So this world, as I said, Abrahma Bhuvana, but whatever it is, Abrahma Bhuvana Loka Punaravartina. Whether we go higher or lower, this world is still a place of ashashvatam. It is not permanent. There is no permanent happiness here. Because this world is tukhalaya. It is guaranteed. Whatever it is, we enjoy little pleasure. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the pleasure that we experience in this material world is compared to, when a prisoner is punished, they catch him by his hair, put him in the water, he cannot breathe, he suffers. Then after 2 minutes, they'll bring him out for like 5 seconds. He does, and immediately they throw him back. That pleasure that he experienced while breathing, that's what this material world pleasure is compared to in our Shastras. So even though this world is Dukkhalaya, we are all looking for Sukhalaya in this world. But whatever it is, the material efforts cannot give Sukhalaya. So when Vidura approaches Maitreya Muni, how different disciples should approach their guru is very beautifully given in the Bhagavatam. They always approach in a sense of inquisitiveness. So he says, Sukhaya karmani karoti loka. Natai sukham va anyad uparamam va. Let me just stop sharing. Okay. Sukhaya karmani karoti loko. Natai sukham va anyad uparamam va. Vindeta bhuya tata eva dukkham. Yadatra yuktam bhagavan vadennaha. So he says, everyone in this world is looking for sukhaya karmani, doing their karmas, doing their occupation. Karma is usually their occupational duty. Previously, they would do occupation according to one's varna. Now that the varnashram system is almost dead or not existing, everyone is doing their activities. Occupation for sukha, sukhaya karmani karoti, doing the whole world loka. But nathai sukham, but they are not experiencing happiness. But one finds neither happiness nor mitigation of distress. Right? Vindheta bhuya tataeva dukkham. On the contrary, one is only aggravated by such activities. And what do they get? Vindheta bhuyaha tataeva dukkham. Yadatra yuktam bhagavan vadenaha. Please, therefore, give us directions of how one should live or one should attain real happiness. So this is how Vidura, the first question, when he approaches Maitreya, this is the first question he asks, because he understands Bhoga Ishwarya Prasaktanam Tayapahrita Chetasam. When one is attracted by Bhoga and Aishwarya, he does not get Vyavasatmika Buddhi na Vidhiyate. It does not bring about resolute determination to attain the Supreme Lord. Because once we take up to this process of sense gratification, and if you see mostly all our acharyas, Prabhupada, Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, and all the previous acharyas, they were extremely well learned in all the philosophies of Jyotisha, Nyaya Shastra, Mimamsa Shastras, all these various complex Shaddarshan philosophies, which is called Jaimini's Mimamsa and all these things. But they would always hit on the point. Every lecture would always be hitting on avoiding sense gratification. Because the sense gratification, what does it do? Janasya Krishna Vimukhasya Daivad. It makes us Vimukha to Krishna. Turn our face away from Krishna. And what else does it do? Adharma Shilasya Sudhukkitasya. It makes us engage in Adharma Shilasya. Engage in Shilasya Adharma. Engage in Adharma. Anugrahaye charanti nunam bhutani bhavyani janardanasya. This is the second verse. Vidura is telling Maitreya. Janasya Krishna vimukasya daivat. Krishna vimukan. We turn our face away from Krishna. At the end, we engage in adharma. So he's telling Maitreya that, to show compassion to fallen souls who are averse to turn their face towards Krishna, people like you are traveling all over the earth. So please guide me. He approaches Maitreya. That is the question he puts. So even in bhakti, when we come, most of us come there are 4 kinds of ways we come to this process, especially today. We come because of distress. Most of us have come to this path because of distress. We cannot say, I was very inquisitive in Shastra, that's why I approached this movement. Most of us have come because of distress. And once we take up this path of this Bhakti Marga or chanting of Hare Krishna and all these things, the first thing that happens is Kleshagni. The Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu talks about this verse, Kleshagni, Shubhada, Moksha, that once we come to this part, Kleshagni, all our sufferings compared to what it was before is mitigated. For sure, you know that. Is mitigated. But after it gets mitigated, again we become complacent. We don't have the same intensity. Our intensity of bhakti keeps changing. So in that, I'll just share something here. I have talked about this a little before, but I'll share it from the Krishna book. So when Krishna went and killed Narakasura, Narakasura, Bhaumasura had stolen certain items. He had stolen a throne, he had stolen an umbrella, and he had stolen what? He had stolen the earrings. So King Indra's behavior, and I've spoken about this before, King Indra was already transformed and he had submitted himself to Krishna after Govardhan Leela. And not very far away, Krishna killed Narakasura, and then he went to Indraloka to return the earrings of Indra's mother, Aditi. So King Indra's behavior was not very much appreciated. Out of his causeless mercy, Krishna had gone to the heavenly kingdom, Amaravati, to present King Indra with his mother's earrings, which had been lost to Bhaumasura, also Narakasura. And Indra had been very glad to receive them. Of course, when Krishna gives us something, we'll be very happy to receive it. Right? We only want Krishna to give us, even in this process. If Krishna takes away something from us, we are not happy with Krishna. But when a Parijata tree from the heavenly kingdom was taken by Krishna, Indra had fought with him. See? This was self-interest on the part of Indra. Do we like anything taken away from us? We go to Krishna and say, why Krishna? Why did you do this to me? I'm doing so much chanting. I'm eating prasadam daily. I'm doing so much service. He had offered his prayer, tipping down his head at the lotus feet of Krishna. But as soon as his purpose had been served, he became a different creature. So when we also come, Kleshagni, Shubhada, Mokshada, when that Kleshagni, suffering is mitigated, as we get complacent over time, we become a different creature. That is the way of the dealings of the materialistic men. Materialistic men are always interested in their own profit. So if we are not so interested in our profit of bodily enjoyment, we are interested in our profit of making ourselves famous, recognized, and all these things. For this purpose, they can offer any kind of respect to anyone. But when their personal interest is over, they are no longer friends. So even if I want a position somewhere materially or in a spiritual organization, what do? I offer respect. But when it doesn't work, no longer friends. This selfish nature is found not only among the richer class of men on this planet, but even in personalities like Indra and other demigods. Too much wealth, or even too much power for that matter, makes a man selfish. A selfish man is not prepared to take to Krishna consciousness and is condemned by great devotees like Shukadeva Goswami. In other words, possessions of too many worldly riches is a disqualification of advancement in Krishna consciousness. So see, Indra, something, just a tree he took away and he became so unhappy. So that it's a very big lesson for us that we should not, get disappointed or anything. See, usually in the material world, our occupation is done only to serve a need. Like we earn money only to take care of our roti, kapida, makan. But today in Kali Yuga, nowadays, people are earning money more for status, for prestige, and lesser for the actual need. Needs are there. No one is denying needs are not there or needs are there. But it's more so not for the need, but it's become more so for the actual need. For the status, for the prestige. And that is illusion. That is Maya. That in this verse, Prabhupada says, there are two worlds, the spiritual world and the material world. Right? And this material world is transitory. It is not, it creates a network of illusion around us. So what is this illusion? People are usually attracted by the opulences of the Supreme Lord. For example, Viryasya, Samagrasya, power, opulence, and all these things that the Supreme Lord has. And when this, actually, I'm giving an example of what Radhesham Prabhu gave a few months back. When the film actors, they're made to pose with these opulences, then it creates an illusion to the person, and they get attached to such a film actor or such a heroic act of that actor. And that's why they're getting so much following in social media or other medias and all that, because they create this illusion of who they are when they're actually not. This very nice example Radhesham Prabhu gave us. People were so attracted by the Ramayana, in the 90s or 80s, 90s, I think, when it came out, that they were seeing this Lord Ram and Sita and all that, and so attracted. And people actually went to see them in their film studio. This Rama or some Sita, they were all smoking cigarette. See, that's the illusion this whole thing creates. But the world is, in a way, real, right? Because whatever is Krishna coming in this world was real. Krishna giving Bhagavad Gita in this world is real. Krishna speaking to Arjuna was real. Rama coming to Ayodhya is real. All that really happened. That's our Vaishnava philosophy, that whatever happened, the material world is real. We earn our karma here. That is also real. We earn our punya karma and papa karma, right? If this world is, in a way, what can I say? The world is transitory. If the world is an illusion by itself, like the impersonalists say, this world does not exist actually. What me and you are seeing is not there. We will understand this when we so-called come out of this illusion by becoming God, which is the impersonalist view. When we do that, then we'll understand this world was never there. There's nothing else, besides one. So that's their philosophy. But the world exists. That's why we talk about punya karma and papa karma, because only when that world really happens, can you earn punya karma, can you earn papa karma, can you go higher, can you go lower? If there is no punya karma, papa karma, then what is the point of everything, being an illusion? That's why Krishna says right in the Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, after giving him discussion on the soul and all that, you're not committing a sin, you're doing your dharma. He says, Atachainam nitya jatam nityam va manyase mritam tatapitvam mahabaho nainam shochatam arhasi. If, however, you think that the soul will also die, you still have no reason to lament. Why? Because if the soul dies, then that means the Jivatma is non-existent. Then why do you have to die? Then why do you have to worry? Then you will not be affected by sinful reactions. Prabhupada writes there in the purport, if there are no rebirth for the soul, Arjuna had no reason to be afraid of being affected by sinful reactions due to his killing his grandfather and teacher. So he will not be affected by sinful reaction. Papa karma will not happen. See, in the Vaishnava philosophy, or according to Shastra, it is a fact. It's just not philosophy. It's a fact that there is rebirth, right? There is rebirth. we accept there is rebirth. It's not like we can cut rebirth. We will either have rebirth in the material world, or we will have rebirth in the spiritual world, or reappearance in the spiritual world, whatever you want to call it. However, we are saying you end the cycle of material birth and rebirth, material birth and death. We are not saying you completely stop birth and rebirth. If you say, I'm going to completely stop birth and rebirth, that means there is no spiritual birth in the spiritual world. That means you're not accepting the concept that the spiritual world exists, which is the philosophy of the impersonalist, that there is no spiritual world. There is only, kind of this material world, which is so-called illusion, which is so-called like a dream. And then when you get out of this thing, there is no world. You'll be in a light or formless area. And that is not rebirth. You're just going back or merging back, which is not called birth and rebirth. So there is a spiritual world, there is a material world. It's a fact. There is a Vaikuntha world. And in the Shastras, it is said that the spiritual world is compared to 3/4 in the whole manifestation that ever exists. The spiritual world is 75%, and this material world is only 25%. And this material world is, as I said, transitory and real. So and then in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is given beautifully. Going to go to Chaitanya Charitamrita, give me a minute. That in the process of getting out of this material world and to go to the spiritual world, we get the process of bhakti. We get something called the Bhakti Lata Beach. And when we are practicing this Bhakti Lata Beach, because it is the nature of the material world to, as we see in this verse, to get overly attracted to sense enjoyment, we are also attracted to that because of our conditioning of 84 lakh species. So that's why in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Prabhupada says, the culprit mind is always suspicious. Therefore, our dealings should always be straightforward and approved by Vedic authorities. Okay, so, in our Krishna consciousness movement, we have the 4 regulative principles. People who indulge in these activities can never become perfect. Therefore, the regulative principles are meant for those interested in going back to Godhead. Diplomatic behavior, putinati, cannot satisfy the Atma or the soul. The culprit mind is always suspicious, whether we are in the process, whatever conditioning, we are always suspicious. Therefore, our dealing should always be straightforward. If we treat people diplomatically or dupliciously, our spiritual advancement is obstructed. Jiva Himsa refers to killing of animals or to envy other living entities. So Jiva Himsa is also to envy other living entities. Whereas our process is not Jiva Himsa, is Jiva Daya. In Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur times in Gaudiya Math, he would have only 2 people staying in the mat. One, the pujari, because he has to do the afternoon arti or the evening arti or whatever offerings required. So one, the pujari, and one cook. That's it. These were the only 2 allowed to stay in the mat. Everyone else, if it is 50 people living associated with the mat, working in the mat, inmates, all of them should be out. They should be doing book distribution, going out for bhiksha, going out for preaching. Nobody else is allowed to stay. So much so that today's Ekadasi, that once during Ekadasi, one extra person was staying in the mat, the Gaudiya Mat. And Saraswati Thakur found out that this person is staying. He himself would go out for preaching too, but he found out. Then he asked why this person is staying in the mat. And so they said, well, he's doing Ekadasi Nirjal fasting. So he's very tired and he's unable to go preach. He doesn't have energy. He's feeling sick. Saraswati Thakur said, just feed him grains and have him go preach. That's the importance he gave to everyone should go out, especially in the upcoming month, in the next 4 days, which is book distribution month, including to myself. As far as possible, we should be out on the road doing book distribution, preaching. Here in book distribution is preaching, like we heard a couple of days back in our Sunday feast lecture. So if we don't do that, Jiva Himsa is to envy other living entities. So he says that beautifully. Mundane people waste their time amassing material profit. Such profit has no eternal benefit. Simply adoration by mundane people is valueless. Anyone here looking for criticism? No. Everyone wants only mundane adoration. Simply adoration by mundane people is valueless because after death, one has to accept another body. So that's why he says in this topic of watering and hearing and chanting to water the Bhakti Lata beads. In that purport, it says, if one hears and chants without trying to give up offenses, one becomes materially attached to sense gratification. One may desire mundane reputation by making compromise with non-devotees concerning one's spiritual life or philosophy. So as soon as you notice the unwanted creeper, cut it. Then the Bhakti Lata creeper will grow. But you should always understand, it's very difficult to realize when this Bhakti, mundane, unwanted creeper is growing. That's why it says in the Bhagavad Gita, Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschid yatati siddhaye yatatam api siddhanam kaschin mam veti tattvataha. Out of millions and thousands of people, kaschin mam, one who knows Krishna really, properly, philosophically, shastrically, is very, 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 very few. So we should always desire to associate with such people so that our unwanted creeper could also get cut. Or else, as I said, the unwanted creepers will get watered, and our desire for material desire for increasing our position, fame, making ourselves, more famous and stuff will increase. Instead of preaching out of compassion, our thing will become out of ambition. So in another book, Prabhupada writes very beautifully on this topic of sense gratification. There are no limits to the imagination of these unclean and deluded demons. They pose as self-styled leaders and endlessly worry about the welfare of the society, right? They worry, for example, about where to lodge people who come to purchase in the marketplace. But what they're actually thinking about is how to secure their own long-lasting enjoyment, along with their children, their grandchildren, and their great-grandchildren's enjoyment, up to the final dissolution of the world. Up to that, they're making planning. But when they experience suffering instead of pleasure, the demons revert to violence against their fellow men to accumulate wealth. These material desires are insatiable, so it can never be satisfied. So even billions of dollars cannot appease them. On this point of, a materialist making plans for their children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, this is also discussed by our famous Kulashekar Alvar in Mukundamala Stotra. He says, Krishna toye madana pavano dhuta mohor mimale taravarte tenaya sahajagraha sanghakulecha samsarakhe mahati jaladhau majjatam nas tridhaman padam bhoje varada bhavato bhakti navam prayacha. He says, O Lord of the three worlds, we are drowning in the vast ocean of samsara chakra, this whole giant wheel, which is filled up with the waters of material hankering, with many waves of illusion, whipped up by the winds of lust, with whirlpool of wives, and with vast schools of sharks and other sea monsters who are our sons and brothers. O giver of all benedictions, please, Padam bhoje varada bhavato, bhakti navam. Navam means what? Boat, right? Please grant me a place on the bhakti nava, on the boat of devotion, which is your Padam bhoje, which is your lotus feet. So even he's comparing this whole material world to how In the ocean is the waters of material hankering. The waves which come in the sea of ocean is compared to what? Winds of lust, kama, and the whirlpool of spouses with vast schools, the sharks and other sea monsters are compared to our family like sons and children and daughters and brothers. O giver of benediction, please give me shelter at your lotus feet, which is the bhakti in Avam, which is your lotus feet. Similarly, he says in text 11, Bhava jalidi gatanam dvandva vatahatanam Suta, son, Duhitra, daughter, Kalatra, wives, Trana, Bhariditanam, Vishama Vishaya. Vishaya is sense gratification. Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya de, you know that. And even Vishaya chadiya, sera semajiya, muke bolo hari hari. Says, Vishama Vishayato ye majjatam aplavanam, bhavati sharanam eko Vishnu poto naranam. The people in this vast ocean of birth and death are being blown about by the winds of material. Dvandva, vata hanaham. Vata means wind, right? Hahatana means struck. Vata hatanam. Dvandva, dualities. As they flounder in the perilous water of sense indulgence with no boat to help them. As they flounder in the perilous, dangerous waters of sense indulgence. We saw the material hankering. With no boat, there's no boat coming to help them. They are sorely distressed by the need to protect their sons, daughters, and wives. Bhavati Sharanam, what can give them Sharana? Eko, just one. Vishnu Poto Narana. Only that boat is Vishnu that can save them. So similarly, which same thing Prabhupada is talking in this book here, in this article. Okay. So, and then he continues to say the demons are always ruminating on how to increase his bank balance. Today, the stocks have gone up, and so also my profits. Tomorrow, if these other commodities become dearer, my bank balance will further increase, and so my future looks bright and prosperous. The demons continues to think, but now on a slightly different subject. One of my enemies has been destroyed, and another one is soon to meet his end. This puts me in a more secure position. Oh, he's gone. He's gone. My enemy is gone. So I'm more secure. So now that I have become adept at eliminating my enemies, I have become God Almighty. So that way, and then he continues to say, the demons are under the impression that no one is more wealthy or popular than themselves. The few religious deeds that the demons perform are merely a show that are meant only to flatter their false ego and bring them more recognition and respect. They perform them only for their own sense enjoyment and are invariably acts of violence. The demons engage in these rituals without following the scriptural injunctions, merely to appease their vain glory. Strutting with false pride, anger, strength, lust, and so on, the demons become totally absorbed in bodily consciousness. So that's why I was trying to say, my point was in this whole thing, that materially we get attracted by sense gratification and we get bewildered. Similarly, even after coming to spiritual life, after our distresses are mitigated, when we become complacent, again we get bewildered by the illusion of this material world, because this material world is like a mirage. You know a mirage. If you go on a hot day and you see on a road that water is actually not there. Similarly, the enjoyment that we get out of this material world is not there. It's compared to thing. But this world is only dukkhalayam and ashashvatam. So we should constantly remember that, because there is no sukhalaya in this world. Though, of course, the only sukhalaya is bhakti. As you know, in 9th chapter, 2nd verse, it says, Susukam kartum avyayam, Rajavidya rajagohyam pavitramidam uttamam. In that verse, it says, this bhakti can be done happily, and it gives one ananda. And as we, advance and more, we get more and more ananda. And attain the spiritual world of complete happiness. So I will just conclude here. If there is any questions, anything I can answer, any comments you wish to share, please.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, very nicely shared about the material world. They explained very detailed about Dukkalaya Saraswata. And also what you said is very nice, Prabhu. Like when you are distressed, you go to the thing, but once your problem is solved, again you tend to get attracted to this material world. It is true, but at that time, I think association of the devotees will help us.
Yeah.
Yes. Prabhu, from where you are, every time you take Mukundamalana, Prabhu, is Prabhupada, has he given any, like Kitsopanishad and all that, has he written a book on Mukundamala?
Yeah, he has written. He didn't complete it, but he's written. He has written few verses he translated. The remaining verses was translated by his disciples. Just like Bhagavatam, only up to 10 cantos Prabhupada did, the remaining his disciples did. So similarly, Mukundamala also, he did a few and the remaining his disciples translated.
Okay, Prabhu. Thank you so much for the wonderful class, Prabhu. Thank you, Pranam.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
So, yeah, so nicely brought out many aspects about the temporary nature of this world, and then how we always keep making the same mistake again and again of going back once the influence of fear or about difficulties is removed, then again we tend to relax. So this is something that all of us go through, and then how it is necessary to always be fixed in KC and then not get unnecessarily influenced by the material world. So that I think, like rightly pointed out by Mataji, can happen only with sadhu sangha, with association of devotees. Otherwise, on our own, then we will the mind takes over and then we keep forgetting. So somewhere I think we should also have this sangha of, how do you say it, giving a feedback to each other, so that, things move on rightly for everybody, and that's very important, so we have a sadhu sangha, we have an association, we have congregation, so we should also move to the next level of trying to, have meaningful exchanges, feedbacks, and then, things like that, which will make it, sometimes, the diplomacy that you touched upon comes in even among devotees, and then, sometimes we refrain from doing certain things, which is not very good, or we might color it saying that it could be Vaishnava Aparadha and so on and so forth. It's a very precarious path that we are trending, and then, a little bit, there's always this chance to get to the other side. That fear is always there. But then, if the intention is good in sharing things, in communicating to other devotees, all of us, together, then I think definitely we will have a much better, vibrant, congregation, which will help each other, So that diplomacy is another factor that you touched upon. I think we should try to avoid that. I'm just sharing my thoughts on what you.
Sure. No, that's correct. You're right.
So thank you so much, Prabhu. And devotees, if you have any thoughts or any questions, then go ahead. I'm sure Prabhu will be happy to take them.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranams. Thank you so much for the wonderful class, Prabhu. Prabhu, I have on this doubt, Prabhu. Usually we know that this world is real and temporary, but sometimes some purpose it comes that the world is false. So how to understand and explain to the others, Prabhu?
World is false means it's not false like how the impersonalist says it is false. The world is false in the sense that acceptance of the permanent nature of the world is false. The world, when they ask that question, you can use the word, the world is transitory. So what existed, so accepting the world is real but temporary is better or transitory. The world is false. I hope that kind of clarifies. Accepting the world as permanent is false. Because people, like in this verse, in the purport, Prabhupada says, even though the world is full of material miseries, people want to stay here. Tell me who wants death. They make everything more and more that they want to extend their life as far as possible in this material world because of some form of attachment. But the material nature will not allow us to do so. Like even Yudhishthira tells, ahani, ahani, bhutani, we are all living, thinking it will not come to us. That nature is the false nature of this world. I hope that clarifies.
Yes, Prabhu. So I just wanted to know how to explain to the people.
Yeah, so you can explain it.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. Dandavat pranams.
So devotees, any other comment, question from anyone else? We'd like to hear from others.
Right. I think we can conclude there. No questions.
Yeah. So it's all clear, I think. So thank you so much, Prabhu. We can conclude. We can conclude with Vaishnava pranams. Vancha kalpatrubhyascha kripa sindhubhyev cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Anantananta koti Vaishnavrinda ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gurudev ki jai. Nitya Gaur Sitanath Paramanande Hari Hari Bol. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Thank you once again, Prabhu. Thank you for your association. Thank you for the wonderful class. So, devotees, thank you for joining. We will all again come back tomorrow. So, Hare Krishna. I'll end the session for all of you.